has the United States government begun experimentations of the walking corpses? Well, tonight on this episode of Late Night Prison Talks, that's exactly what we're going to discuss. I remember when I was in prison and we were sipping coffee one late night in a dormitory. It was one of those big dormitories where everything was double and triple bunked and what they call a state-run facility that is for profit. It is a satellite camp. In it, it was all concrete and metal, of course, most prisons are, with a key in the middle, because it was two dorms and there's a key in the middle. And in the key, the officer who was working the key can see inside both dorms through a bulletproof glass window, shield, whatever you want to call it. It had little wires running through it. So in order for inmates to try to beat that glass down to get to the guard, it was really hard and difficult. They would have had to, it would have took a lot of strength if it was bulletproof, right? It's common sense. Okay, so we were sitting up one night and we were looking at all this stuff, me and a couple inmates, and we're having our coffee and we talking. And next thing you know, somehow or another, somebody brings up the topic, man, what if they turn us all into zombies? And we all looking like, dang, that's true. What if they do make us turn to zombies? And so in the conversation where everybody's sitting down talking, people begin to share their own thoughts. What if something happens in the world and they have to deal with mass incarceration and what to do with all the inmates they have inside the prison systems, whether it be state and federal or worldwide, because there is an outbreak or there's a World War III or there is mass food shortages or there is, earthquakes and fires. We're talking about the apocalypse and this stuff starts happening. What are they going to do with the people inside the prison? Well, one dude proposed that they might turn us all into zombies, walking corpses. Why would they turn us into walking corpses? We all asking. And he says, man, I think they'd turn us into walking corpses because that's the easiest way to deal with us and use us as weapons. And I'm like, I hear what you're saying. And this is me. Now I'm telling one of the dudes that we talking about. We sipping our coffee. Yeah, drinking that good coffee, you know what I mean? That thick stuff. I'm talking about that cowboy. This the type of stuff that they would have drank in the Wild Wild West, sitting around a campfire in the middle of the night trying to hold off grizzly bears and rattlesnakes and fierce, you know what I mean? Cavalry who's trying to take them or other outlaws or Indians or whatever. So we sipping that type of coffee, that black Mississippi mud, that type of coffee, no sugar, you know what I mean? Might not have had 1 or 2 sugar cubes tossed in there, you know what I mean? Get them rocks, mix it together. That's the kind of coffee I'm talking about. So we sipping that stuff, that mud water. Everybody's sipping that. So I'm like, man, I don't think that makes much sense. And so I'm pointing, I said, look at them vents. And they say, yeah. And listen, the only reason, they don't have no air conditioning in Louisiana prisons, but they got vents, right? So they don't never run no air conditioner through it. But they, if I remember right, they did have central heating. I could be wrong if I remember in this particular place. But so why they got vents? And they might not have had that, because I think the conversation I had, I said, well, look, I don't think that they would turn us into zombies. He said, yeah, he points to the vents. He said, that's what I'm talking about. They're going to run the zombie gas through the vents, and they're going to turn us into zombies, and then they're going to open the doors, and they could use us as weapons against the people who are still living, because there's a food shortage. And if there's a food shortage, well, they could use the walking corpses to help annihilate the rest of the people so they can control the food, because there ain't a lot of food left. So the less people they have, the better. Right. And so the world leaders, the ones who are in power, the ones who got authority and run things, and the ones who have those hidden underground bunkers and bases, they're going to go in there. They're going to let loose the zombies from the prisons, and the zombies are going to do all the dirty work of getting rid of the population of people and bringing the population under control. Well, to me, that really didn't make no sense. Here's why. Why wouldn't they just, if they had to deal if they realized that there was a world war, or there was the end of the world, or there was a global pandemic, and we've seen it happen with COVID, and I heard horror stories inside the prison system over COVID, but I'm talking about, I'm going back in the 90s and the early 2000s when we having this conversation. That was before any of that happened. And I'm saying it would be easier for them, and I'm telling the dudes who I'm talking to, it would be easier for them to put gas through the vents and just let us all die, so they wouldn't have to worry about us. Because think about it. How would the government justify not being able to care for all the inmates that are under their control or under their supervision, right? Because they don't have no officers to work it, because they can't pay anybody, because the economy is basically broken and fractured, and it comes to a halt. Nobody's going to be working. Everybody's going to worry about survival and taking care of their own. This is, apocalyptic stuff where somebody's trying to steal somebody's horses so they could eat them. They need meat. They're eating dogs, whatever. It's bad, right? Stuff won't grow. Crops. So this is the stuff that we talking about in prison. And you got to keep in mind, before you say it's crazy and we crazy for talking about this stuff in prison, we ain't got nothing but time on our hands, right? So all this type of conversation comes up, and that's why I deemed this particular series Late Night Prison Talks. This is the crazy conversations. I want you, the audience, to be able to come inside the minds of the prisoners and hear what we're talking about. So to me, it would have been better if they put the chemical gases through the vents. And then I'm sitting there looking, like if I remember right, I'm telling myself, like, we don't have no air conditioner, we don't have no heat. So why do they got vents? The vents are a contingency plan. In Louisiana, if there's no heat and no air conditioning, but there's vents. What are the vents for? Oh, maybe one day they're going to run air conditioning here. Yeah, right. Okay, no. It's a contingency plan. They literally build these prisons with contingency plans on how they are going to eliminate the prisoners, right? How they're going to eliminate the problem. Prisoners being the problem, right? They can't release them. It's too much of a threat, too much of a danger. Imagine all the prisoners all across the country being released from every prison all at one time during a global crisis. That would cause major problems inside society, because you're releasing a lot of bad people. Yes, there's a lot of good dudes in prison, but you're also releasing a lot of bad people too. And they're going to build up their own factions inside society to try to build what I would think would be the next powering political movement to reorganize structure in a society, right? And the prisoners would have that opportunity. I mean, we recently saw that in Haiti, right? Where the prisoners escaped all the prisons and they took over the government and official government buildings in the capital of Haiti. And they began calling the shots. Convicts, prisoners. This really happened. Go look it up in Haiti, right? So something like that can happen on a bigger scale. Can you imagine? All the millions and millions of prisoners that are inside the United States prison system, it would be chaotic. So we're talking about that. Now let's go back to the zombie thing. So I'm kind of writing off the zombie thing because I don't think it makes sense. But I get what he's saying, the guy who's talking. He's saying, hey, look, bro, if they did that, they can use the zombies or the walking corpses, as he called them, as weapons, right? Which makes sense, because if the government wants to unleash a weapon that they don't have to put manpower to, they don't have to put, controls to. In other words, they don't have to control it with digital controls, basically a system, right? There's nothing you have to do. So if they turn people into walking corpses and release them as a weapon, they're just released as a weapon. There's no control over that. So they just go out and do what they got to do. And there's no resources that need to be put toward those walking weapons. Right. So that's it. That's what he's saying. But I'm saying it doesn't make sense. But fast forward to today. Is the government experimenting on the American people, or is the world leaders or the New World Order experimenting on people with, right? Here we go. Walking corpses. Remember, I had this conversation in the prison system in the 90s. Now we all the way to today. We passed heroin, we passed cocaine. Remember, they had the LSD pandemic and the MK Ultra. That's a whole nother thing, right? Where they were trying to control people. But bam, fast forward today, fentanyl and synthetic marijuana. You see channel after channel on prison channels where they're showing these guys inside the prison system on this synthetic marijuana or this fentanyl, and it's like they're literally walking corpses. They got their backs hunched over. They're literally pouring urine on them. And the people who are on this synthetic drug, they're not even affected by it. It's like, it doesn't matter. You could tell them that their mother died and they're unemotional. They're literally walking corpses. I mean, you look at how they abuse the people who's on it. Now, imagine if the government is trying to create walking corpses. And listen, before you say this, this is pure late night prison talk. This is all just inside the mind, what ifs, the imagination run wild. That's what this is. I don't have any factual information on it other than me saying, look, when you see people on synthetic drugs, they do look like walking zombies, right? I don't think anybody's disputing that. You can go to any major city and look at the fentanyl crisis and it looks like they're walking zombies. So what if there was an evil intent behind the creation of these synthetic drugs and there really is walking corpses that were intended to be walking corpses so that the evil powers behind the scenes can see what kind of reactions they would get once people begin to take these synthetic and chemically manufactured substances and the people begin taking them and they're studying this stuff and they're trying to improve it so that they can get it exactly how they need it to get to where not just they become like the walking corpses you see inside the prison videos. Go look at the prison videos, people on K2. That's the videos. They call it K2. And they're on that K2 and I'm telling you, they just hunched over and all of them got their backs kind of hunched over. It almost looks like they're walking like on a Walking Dead movie, on a Walking Dead series. They just kind of strolling around. They still have life in them, but it almost looks like life is void from their eyes. So this is not inside the realm of a couple convicts hanging around late night in the 90s, sipping coffee and discussing this stuff. And here we are today, and we are seeing people who are like real walking corpses, real walking zombies. I know it sounds crazy, but if they needed population control and they needed population control quickly because of any amount of possible global pandemics, such as a food shortage, which can easily happen. It's happened in the history of the world, and there was just too many people and not enough food. Then, right, creating an army of corpses to deal with the people who are just too many, the mass population that already exists, it wouldn't be outside the realm of crazy to think that that could be a possibility. Now, you could be laughing, but I know there's also a lot of people who research and study this stuff a lot deeper than I do, and they take this stuff serious. But I want to get our minds thinking. You never know what is and what isn't. And listen, you got to question everything, and it's okay to have fun with it, right? Thanks for watching another episode of Wait, we changed that. It's not with or without parole no more. Pen and a Shank. Thanks for watching A Pen and a Shank. And give me a like and subscribe if you like talking about different, unusual, and unique topics that relate to crime and prison. Then you're in the right place. Give me a like, subscribe. Thanks.